Hi, this is David McNulty with School of Personal Flight. Today I'm restringing a Fresh Breeze cage section. There's been some damage to it, but I've bent it out and none of the holes were damaged. So I'm going to continue like it's a new Fresh Breeze cage with no string in it. So from the Southern Skies website you can get a cage restringing diagram which shows you the order in which you restring the cage. And the lines are a grid of kind of like tennis racket string or something. And in every case in this grid, the vertical lines, and this here is an upper right cage section. In every case, the vertical lines go over or in front of the horizontal lines, except in 6 intersections, which are all out on the end, so on the side of the cage, and I've got them marked out. Actually 7 intersections. Here you go. So on these 7, the vertical string will go under the horizontal string, but in every other intersection, vertical goes over horizontal. Here are the tools I'm using. I've got some lock wire, which you could use any wire. Previously I've just used signal cable wire, which you can get off like a Ethernet cable. I got 60 feet of cage string from Southern Skies. We only need 30 feet per cage section, so I'm going to cut this in half. And duct tape, because occasionally you need to tie things, and duct tape's really useful in general. And then I just cut off a piece of lock wire about maybe a foot long, and we're going to use this as a tool. So I've tied a knot in one end of this 30-foot section of string that I've cut out, and I just did 3 overhand knots. I'm not real amazing at knots, so these, if you can tie your shoelaces, you can tie an overhand knot. So I tied 3 of them. I'm just making sure that these knots are too big to fit through this hole right here, if I can get it in focus, and that looks like that's going to be good. And what we're going to do is bring the other end of the line, not the knot end, but the free end. We're going to bring it through this first hole marked out on the diagram here. So this is closest to the pilot's head. And then we'll go from there. So what I made here is kind of like a needle for threading this line through the cage section. What it is a piece of duct tape. I don't know, it's probably about finger width in width, and probably about 1.5 inches long, and it's taken the long way of, so the duct tape kind of has a grain, like the threads go this way. You want to take this section from the duct tape the long way, so your duct tape will look kind of ugly like that when you're done. But what that does is it gives it some strength for pulling, which we're going to do as we put this needle through the cage. So the first place where we put the needle through is that starting hole. So I'm just going to do that. Find the hole on the other side. Not always obvious. There we go. Okay, so just pull it through, and you might need to kind of feed on both ends a little bit to get it through the hole. You want to be careful not to break the tape. And that first hole is really easy. The next hole, if you look on the chart, we go 1, 2, and then 3. We're going to go up one hole and then back across. Okay, I'm going to just push this needle through. I've given it a bend so that it should pop back up through the next hole, but I've also given it a very sharp bend at the end, which kind of helps to find this hole. So I'm holding the needle about where my thumb is going to be when this guy's popping out the next hole. So that'll tell me not to go too far in and miss the hole. So here we go. And there we go. Popped out the other side. So I'm going to pull this through, and the needle goes through pretty smoothly. When you get to the duct tape, just kind of baby it through the hole. You don't want to break the duct tape. So it's a little pulling and a little pushing. Get that in there. A little pulling. And there we go. That's one hole done. Periodically, while you're pulling the strings through the holes, I find it's helpful to secure the work that you've done, kind of save the progress you've made with a little piece of duct tape over one of the holes, just to kind of hold that string, you know, in place so it can't slide back out. So you want these lines to be as tight as you can get them, and about the time when they start sounding like music is about when you've made them tight enough. So that's most of the horizontal pieces done. Now that the line has been threaded through all the holes in the cage section, paying attention to keeping the verticals behind the horizontals just down in this outer lower quadrant of the section, you want to tighten all of these lines. So just tighter than you could imagine. Tighten it twice. Just you want it really, really tight, because at the very end of all of this threading, you're going to tie a knot, and it's just about impossible to get a knot perfectly flush against the side of the metal here that will keep the tension on. So you're going to lose a little bit of tension when you tie that knot. But anyway, once you have this whole thing tensioned up, I use a little piece of duct tape on that last time it goes through a hole in the cage, just to keep the whole thing from sliding out while I tie this knot. So I've only got one hand free. I'll tie it, and then we'll be done with this. There you have it, a restrung Fresh Breeze cage section. I tied a couple of overhand knots to keep the line from slipping back through the bottom hole here, and I'll trim off this excess line later. And this cage section is ready to be put back on the motor. So thanks for watching.